The air on the slave ship Zalvora was a choking stew of rust, oil, and blood. It hung thick in the metal corridors like a curse, soaked into every bolt and circuit. Even the recycled oxygen tasted stale, spiteful, like the vessel knew it carried the broken, the damned. General Marcus Thorne sat shackled in the center of the primary cargo hold, a dim, cavernous space dimly lit by flickering blue luminance. Thick chains bound his arms and legs, linked to the wall like he was some prehistoric beast, a relic unworthy of dignity. His shirt had been ripped away during the parade, and hours-long humiliation tore through every deck. Each Drakari drone allowed one free lash of their toxin whips. His back was a canvas of welts, dried blood, and scorched wounds that pulsed with pain in time with his heart. One eye was swollen shut. His lip was split. But Marcus Thorne, hero of the Fallen Belt, butcher of the Alaris Front, last Grand General of Earth's Resistance, did not bow. He stared forward, head high, spine straight, eyes sharp. The Drakari captain stepped forward, his exoskeletal limbs ticking and clacking with every move. 7 feet tall and reeking of chemical dominance, he wore armor made from molted husks, polished to a dark iridescent sheen. Twin mandibles clicked as he leaned down to examine the human. So, the creature said, voice like grinding metal, "The humans weep, their colonies ash, their fleet scattered across the void. And now, what is this we have? A war hero in chains." The room of alien soldiers erupted in clicking, hissing laughter. The Drakari didn't laugh like humans. There was no joy in it, only mockery, predatory celebration. "You are no more than a defective ape," the captain continued. "A soft bloodsack with obsolete ideas. Your war is over." Thorne let the silence stretch. A trickle of blood slid from his nose and dripped to the floor, sizzling faintly as it struck the chemically cleansed metal. He inhaled deeply, exhaled, then he smiled. "Ape, hey," he said, voice gravelly but steady. "You know what we do when someone puts a collar on an ape." The Drakari sneered. "What?" Thorne's eyes narrowed. "We rip off the handler's goddamn face." Suddenly, he jerked his right wrist, and with a sickening snap, his thumb desiccated. The chain loosened just enough. With a roar that tore through the air like thunder, Thorne ripped his arm free, the edge of the manacle shredding into his skin. Blood sprayed in crimson arcs as he lunged. The captain reeled, raising a blaster, but it was too late. Thorne's chained left arm slammed forward, catching the alien in the throat with a wet crack. The captain stumbled, choking, his mandibles twitching erratically. And then, boom, the far wall exploded inward. Shrapnel and debris tore through the chamber as a breach detonated with pinpoint precision. From the smoke and fire emerged 6 figures, tall, cloaked in obsidian exosuits, eyes glowing like red suns behind armored visors. Their rifles hummed with electromagnetic charge. They moved like phantoms. The first one approached Thorne, scanning him. "General, we're late by 4 to 2 seconds. My apologies." "Extraction team?" Thorne asked, gripping a scavenged weapon. "Designation, Hell Jumpers. Direct order from Admiral Kane. We got your signal." "You came for me." The operative looked around the ruined chamber. "Sir, we came to finish the mission." Thorne grinned, a wild, feral thing. "Not extraction, then." The squad leader nodded. "Retaliation." They moved like death incarnate. One by one, the Drakari slavers fell, heads ruptured by silent rounds, thoraxes shredded by plasma fire. Thorne led them through the ship's arterial halls, every corridor a kill zone. They didn't run, they advanced. Precision, fury, purpose. The Hell Jumpers were legends whispered in terrified rumors, cybernetically enhanced humans grown in shadow projects, trained in pain, bred for vengeance. They were ghosts that never left survivors. And Thorne? He was the one who trained the first generation. In the reactor core chamber, Thorne paused. "This ship's going nowhere," he muttered. "Charges already set," said one operative. "This crate burns in 7. "Good." They climbed toward the hangar bay as Klaxon screamed. Doors sealed. Drones poured in, shrieking battle cries. But the Hell Jumpers weren't slowed. They cut through the enemy like fire through dry grass, fluid and brutal, leaving only gore behind. In the main hangar, Their ship waited. A sleek black stealth cruiser with no name, just a sigil, the Terran Phoenix clutching a lightning bolt. As the team boarded, Thorn turned one last time to face the flames consuming the Zalvora. He raised a middle finger to the cameras above. "I told you," he whispered. "You want war." He climbed aboard. "We'll give you war." Back on the cruiser, wounds sealed, blood scrubbed, and armor donned, Thorn stood on the command deck. The interior was Spartan, char-black steel, red lighting, and a single massive view screen showing the distant blue glow of the Drakari capital. He walked up to the main console, leaned down, and pressed his thumb into the biometric scanner. Voice print confirmed. Command override accepted. Activate Hellborn Protocol. The ceiling groaned. Panels slid open above the deck, revealing the armored cockpit of a battleship far larger than the stealth cruiser, hidden in the asteroid they'd used for cover. From the rocks rose a Hellborn. It was no ordinary ship. It was vengeance carved into hull plating. Experimental. Terrifying. Forgotten by Earth's last council after it had disobeyed its own kill orders to save a human colony. They locked it away. Mothballed it. Thorn brought it back. He stepped onto the bridge as systems powered on. Engines flared. Weapons warmed. Crew, a mixture of outlaw Terrans, war-altered clones, and artificial minds, stood at attention. "Sir," asked the second-in-command, a woman named Lara who once ran Black Ops on Saturn's dark side. "Target." "The Queen's Moon. Kravek 9, he replied coldly. "We hit them first." She nodded. Broadcast. Thorn stared ahead, voice low. "Yeah, let's talk to the galaxy." The message went out across all frequencies. Open channels. Civilian networks. Even pirate radio stations. Every species with a receiver heard it. Marcus Thorn appeared, blood-stained, scarred, standing beneath the Terran banner. Behind him, fire, warships, defiance. To all who laughed when humanity fell. To all who chained us, burned us, sold our children. To those who thought Earth would never rise again. You made one mistake. You didn't kill me. You want war. We'll give you war. And somewhere, far across the void, in the glass towers of the Drakari capital, the Queen watched the feed. Her mandibles quivered. She hissed one word. "Kill him." But it was too late. The stars had shifted. The game had changed. And Marcus Thorn was no longer a prisoner. He was a storm. The silence of space had teeth. It waited beyond the orbit of Kravek 9, the blood moon, gnashing unseen behind a veil of stars. Inside that silence, humanity's vengeance, wired, primed, and seething. The Hellborn, a Terran-class dreadnought retrofitted from the bones of fallen ships, floated like a leviathan just outside sensor range. Its hull bore the scars of dead battles. Its engines whispered in old languages of violence. On board, a legend paced. General Marcus Thorn, exiled, tortured, resurrected. His name now echoed across outlaw bands and rebel channels like a curse reborn, and he was done with silence. "We go now," he said, voice low, roughened by years of rage. "Aye, General," replied Commander Laravos, his second-in-command, a former pilot-turned-warrior. "Phase 1 ready." Thorn didn't blink. His eyes, cold steel cut with fire, were locked in the image of the blood moon, that red, scar-streaked sphere turning slow in the dark. "The Queen thinks she's safe," he muttered. "Time to rip the illusion from her skull." He turned to the comms. "Light the void." The first volley tore across the stars like thunder through glass. From the Hellborn, kinetic lances launched, invisible at first, then erupting as streaks of light that smashed into the outer Drakari defense ring. A battle cruiser vaporized instantly. Another spun into the moon's gravity and crashed into the surface, scattering flaming debris across the lower hives. Within seconds, half the orbit was in chaos. Drakari war chants tried to form, static screams through broken signals. They didn't last. Thorn's fleet dropped its cloak entirely. The Bastion, Wraith, and half a dozen outlaw ships followed suit, unleashing disruptors, autocannons, and AI-guided nanobursts that chewed through shield like acid. No warning, no surrender, just wrath. "Send the crawlers," Thorn ordered. Pods the size of coffins jettisoned from launch bays, dozens, then hundreds, each designed to pierce reinforced armor, bury deep into infrastructure, and eject 6 soldiers bred for violence. They hit the moon like a rain of fangs. Streets shattered, towers shook, alarms blared, and then came the screaming, human and Drakari both, as the Helljumpers spilled into the hive cities. Private Lako slammed her boot into the face of a drone guard before it could raise its weapon. Her squad fanned out, rifles hot, blade humming. Sector 12 breached. She yelled into the MIC resistance light. Civies fleeing. They'll regroup. Thorn's voice growled back. Push to the Queen's nest. I want that tower burning. She grinned. With pleasure. Inside the Drakari command, chaos reigned. High Commander Zarek screeched as more red dots blinked across the map. They target the hive directly. That's madness. It's Thorn, whispered his adjutant. He doesn't come to conquer. He comes to end. As the battle raged on the surface, the Queen of the Drakari stood motionless in her chamber, silent, regal, monstrous. Her skin, once pearlescent, now glistened with shifting crimson. Her crown was made of broken Terran artifacts, gun barrels, melted visors, shattered metals. When she spoke, it was a psychic tremor. Bring out the deep spawn. Let the sky bleed. And with that, the real war began. Below the hive cities, in vaults sealed for centuries, something woke. The deep spawn, massive biomechanical war beasts grown in vats of hate, part fungus, part metal, part nightmare. Their eyes glowed like dying stars. Their mouths were filled with language and toxin. They stormed upward, through tunnels, streets, buildings. Entire floors collapsed beneath their weight. One Helljumper unit vanished in seconds. Another barely managed to drop seismic charges in time, crumpling a beast under tons of debris. Sir, Lyra's voice cracked over the comm. The deep spawn are here. We're not equipped for this scale. Thorn stared at the moon from the bridge. Yes, we are, he said coldly. Deploy the Scorchers. They had been held in reserve, not for tactical reasons, but because they were unstable. The Scorchers, 8-legged droid built around a single idea, burn everything that breathes. They carried napalm flame cores, thermite tendrils, and AI systems that only understood one command. Consume! Dozens were launched from orbit. They landed like demons on Kravek 9, unfolding in seconds, scuttling toward heat signatures. And then the burning began. Streets turned to rivers of fire. Walls melted. Beasts screamed. Even Drakari bunkers were turned into glowing graves. From above, it looked like the moon itself was crying flame. Thorn watched it all with dead calm. Now, he said, prep drop pod 6. I'm going down. Lyra turned. You're going to the surface. I'm not watching this war from a chair. She didn't argue. She just handed him his hammer. Yes, that hammer, she smirked. Time to crack a queen, Thorn muttered, and dropped. The pod hit the moon like a warhead. It didn't slow. When the door blew open, Thorn walked out into chaos. Dust, flame, shattered buildings, bodies. He didn't flinch. He walked. Through rubble. Through blood, through a line of soldiers forming around him. Lyra joined him, her face streaked with ash. Behind them, 2 Helljumpers, grim and silent. We fight to the hive, he said. No prisoners. No mercy. Just fire, she asked. Just truth. They cut through the last gate, and inside waited the Queen. Tall, serpentine, wings curled around her like obsidian armor. Her voice echoed before she spoke. You came all this way, to kneel? Thorn stared. No, he said. I came all this way to watch you die. She leapt. The room exploded. She moved faster than light, warping gravity, bending bone, hurling metal. Her claws tore into the Helljumpers, splitting one in half. The other tried to detonate a charge. Failed. Died screaming. Lyra fought with plasma blades, cutting, dodging, bleeding. But it was Thorn who stood in the center. He didn't swing wildly. He waited. When she struck again, her claws aimed at his throat. He sidestepped, grabbed her arm, and slammed the hammer into her chest with the force of a meteor. She staggered, then screamed, psychically, violently. The walls cracked. The hive began to shake. "I am eternal," she roared. Thorn pulled a small device from his belt. A beacon, pulsing. "This is your eternity," he said, and activated it. Above the moon, the Hellborn locked onto the signal. It fired a single bolt, an antimatter around the size of a suitcase. It hit the hive core, and everything erupted. The chamber collapsed. The queen screamed one last time, consumed in white fire. Her wings burned. Her crown melted. Her bones turned to dust. Thorn rose from the rubble, half-conscious, bleeding, but standing. Lara crawled from behind a pillar, bruised, gasping. "We did it," she said. "No," he replied, helping her up. "We started it." In orbit, the last Drakari ships broke formation and fled. Thorn's fleet did not pursue. They broadcast one message across every frequency, in every language. "The blood moon has fallen. We are not prey. We are not your cattle. We are fire. We are fury. And we are coming." The Queen's corpse hadn't yet cooled when the message spread like wildfire across the stars. Kravek 9 has fallen. The blood moon burns. General Marcus Thorn lives. For the Drakari Imperium, it was unthinkable, unforgivable. For humanity, scattered and enslaved, it was hope, drenched in fire, but alive again. Across 12 systems, slave revolts erupted. Shackles were broken. Overseers bled. Terran war cries echoed in places long believed to be graves. But hope has a price, and the Drakari were not going to kneel. Not yet. In the blackened ruins of the Hive Palace, Thorn stood over the crater where the Queen had died. He held her shattered crown in one hand. In the other, her severed tongue, still twitching from residual psionic energy. He stared at both like a man reading prophecy. "They'll send another," Lara said, limping to his side, her arm bandaged with scorched mesh. "A warlord, or worse." "I know," Thorn replied, "but now they bleed first." He turned to the surviving hell jumpers, barely a dozen. "Prep evac. Then we vanish. They'll come looking, and when they do, I want to be somewhere they don't expect." "Where?" asked Lara. Thorn's mouth curled into a grin like a rusted blade. "Earth." 3 days later, the Hellborn emerged from fold space into the Sol system, silent and cloaked. What they saw was worse than ruins. Earth was blackened, not destroyed, but scarred. Orbiting platforms built by Drakari engineers blinked like lidless eyes. The ocean swarmed with mining vessels. What cities remained were cracked open, hollowed, turned into slave farms. In the sky, a new station floated above the clouds, vast, hexagonal, and unnatural. The Throne Shard. "That's not just a station," Lara murmured. "It's a beacon." Thorn nodded. "A crown without a queen." They watched as thousands of Terran prisoners were herded into crafts below, shipped to unknown destinations, likely never to return. Something inside him, long frozen, cracked open. He turned to his crew. "I want plans. Maps. Weak points. Give me a way in." "General," said Lara, hesitating, "we don't even know if Earth's resistance survived. There might be nothing left." Thorn's eyes didn't leave the screen. "Then we light the fire ourselves." In the shadows of New Santiago, the last slum city not yet fully enslaved, survivors watched the skies. And they saw it. A streak of light. No sound. No sonic boom. Just presence, like the arrival of judgment. Then, from a wrecked alley, a cloaked figure emerged, broad-shouldered, burn scars down one side of his face. His voice came in a growl, like iron being bent. "Who's in charge?" A young woman stepped forward, lean, quick-eyed, tattooed knuckles. She carried a handmade rifle in the defiance of the forgotten. "I am," she said, "named Solon." Thorn removed his hood. "Let her see." She froze. No one spoke. You're supposed to be dead," she said. He stepped closer. "Not yet." Within hours, he gathered the remnants, old resistance cells, rogue engineers, ex-slaves armed with rust and rage. Solon led them to an old subcore, a data vault hidden beneath what was once a hospital. Inside, flickering terminals still held blueprints of Earth, of the orbital defenses, and, most importantly, of the throne shard. "It's not just a station," she said, echoing Lyra's earlier thought. "They built it around the body of a god brain. Organic AI. Half Drakari, half something else." "And the throne room?" Thorn asked. She tapped a section deep in the core. "Central node. Heavily shielded. But if you destroy it, the station dies." Thorn stared at the screen. No. Solon frowned. "I'm not just destroying it. I'm taking it." 3 nights later, the sky over Earth cracked open. Thorn led the assault himself. The Hellborn dropped a stealth pod into low orbit. It clipped a patrol vessel in half, rotated, and slammed into the shard's lower ring like a vengeful god. Inside the pod, Thorn, Lyra, Solon, and 6 of the last surviving Helljumpers. They burst from the breach with suppressors blazing, cutting through Drakari guards in seconds. Thorn's hammer hummed with power, smashing exosuits like paper. Solon hacked the first security gate mid-fight, fingers dancing across ancient Terran code and corrupted alien language. "Move fast," she yelled. "Once they triangulate us, we've got 10 minutes max." Thorn grunted. "Then we don't waste seconds." In the throne room, waiting, sat the warlord Kijan, a Drakari titan. Not born, forged. He had no face, just a pulsating skull plate etched with fire runes. His arms were cybernetic whips, and his torso was armored with chain bone from Terran generals he'd slain. He watched the intruders draw closer through a live feed. Then he spoke a single word. "Activate." The shard woke up. Turrets unfolded from walls. Gas seeped through ducts. Gravity inverted. The corridors shifted like a maze reshaping itself. A Helljumper screamed as his body twisted inside out from psionic surge. Lyra barely caught Solon as she slipped on oil-slick floors. "This place is alive," she shouted. "Then we kill it." Thorn roared, slamming his hammer into the wall, blowing a hole through cables and bone pipes. They reached the throne room with 2 Helljumpers left. One dropped dead from psychic overload before the doors even opened. Inside, K.A. Jun stood like a tower of vengeance. "You wear the crown of a corpse," he sneered. "It does not make you king." "No," said Thorn, stepping forward, "but it makes me your executioner." The fight was not clean. It was not elegant. It was carnage. K.A. Jun's arms cracked like whips, slicing into Lyra's side. She fell, gurgling blood, but still firing her rifle. Solon lobbed an ion grenade, shorting the throne's core for 3 seconds, long enough for Thorn to leap forward. His hammer hit the warlord's chest with thunder. Again, and again, until K.A. Jun fell to one knee. "Your kind is broken," he hissed, sparking. "You are fragments." Thorn leaned in, voice like brimstone. "Then call me the fire that melts the pieces." He drove the hammer through the warlord's skull. The shard groaned. Alarms failed. Systems failed. And then, silence. Thorn looked down at Lyra, who gave him a weak, bloody smile. "You always bring hell with you." He knelt, held her hand. "No," he whispered, "I bring the beginning." The throne was empty now, but Thorn Saturday, not as king, as a message. He turned to the nearest interface and opened comms, and once more his voice traveled across the stars. "The queen is ash. The warlord is dust. The throne is shattered. You enslaved our people. You burned our worlds. You laughed at our dead. But hear me now. We are the storm. We are the teeth in the dark, and we will hunt every last one of you. You wanted war. We'll give you war." The throne shard drifted silently in Earth's orbit now, broken, flickering, bleeding vapor like a gutted beast. Inside it, General Marcus Thorn stood amid the ruins of the throne room, surrounded by cooling corpses and shattered walls. His armor was scorched. His hammer was slick with black blood. Lyra lay unconscious beside him, her breathing shallow, ribs crushed. He did not weep. He had no tears left, only fire. Solon crouched at the edge of the main console, fingers dancing across cracked glass and alien circuitry. "I've triggered the blackout protocol," she said. No signals are getting in or out. We're a ghost ship. Good, Thorn replied. Now make us a sword. A day passed. Then another. Orbiting satellite began to notice the throne shard silence. Drakari command station scanned, then double-checked. Still nothing. That monolith above Earth, home to their crown, their god brain, their warlord, was silent. Panic crept in. Then came the message. Not a signal, not a broadcast. A drone corpse, jettisoned from the shard, recovered by a patrol ship outside the Valen belt. In its mouth, a data crystal. On it, a single image. Thorn, seated on the throne, holding Kejun's head like a trophy. The words embedded in the crystal code read, "Let this be your warning. You've ruled with chains. Now face the reckoning." In the halls of the Ash Empire, seat of a Drakari, High Archon Veljara shattered her goblet in a clenched claw. Red wine bled down her arms. "So," she hissed, "the ghost wears a crown." Her advisors shifted uncomfortably in their armor, cybernetic limbs twitching. None dared speak. But she wasn't finished. "Summon the Scorch Cult," she snarled. "Call the Unmakers. Let every infernal beast we buried in stasis rise again. If the humans want fire, we will bring the sun." Back on Earth, the resistance grew. Thorn's seizure of the throne shard didn't just give them weapons. It gave them a symbol. Broadcasts reached Mars colonies, lunar prisons, even deep jungle mines on Venus. Terran slaves, long believed broken, began to whisper one word again. Thorn. A myth reborn. A hammer wrapped in vengeance. On the surface, under Solan's leadership, resistance cells trained by hell jumpers began to retake cities. Silent strikes. Supply raids. Sabotage. But they all knew the real war hadn't started yet. The Drakari had been wounded. Now they would come. Hard. It started with blight storms. Artificial hurricanes seeded with nanophages. Entire continents went dark as bioplague would devour crops, machines, people. Then came the ash ships. Black, cathedral-like vessels that moved like shadows. They did not fire. They landed. And when their doors opened, out poured the Scorch Cult, fanatics in bone armor, wrapped in smoke, wielding weapons made of memory and flame. They called themselves the Cleansers of Thorn. Their chant echoed across the ruined city of Cairo. Ash to ash, blood to flame, crown to coffin. Thorn saw it from orbit. "They are here," Solon said quietly, scanning the data feed. 10 cities hit in 1 hour. No warning. No mercy. Lyra, now conscious of barely walking, stood beside Thorn, her armor held together by willpower and tape. "We can't hold Earth," she said. "Not without allies." "We don't need to hold Earth," Thorn growled. "We need to make Earth a grave." He pointed to the tactical holo. "Lure them here. Feed their arrogance. Then we break them so hard their bloodline forgets war." Solon blinked. "How?" Thorn's eyes darkened. "We use what's under Earth." In the deepest vault below the throne shard, hidden behind ancient Drakari locks, Solon found the core. "By all the void," she whispered. Lyra leaned forward. Inside a sealed chamber, suspended in anti-gravity, was a sphere of glowing crimson, pulsing, alive. "What is that?" "A godsid," Thorn said flatly. "A fragment of the first Drakari world mind. They kept it here to feed the throne's psionic systems. Never use it in full." Solon backed away. "It's not stable." "It doesn't have to be." He turned to Lyra. "I want a warhead built around it, and I want it ready in 3 hours." At sunrise, the Scorch Cult launched their full assault on the ruins of New Santiago. Ash ships dropped bone tanks. Soldiers in flame veil began torching every structure, every body, every hope. Then the throne shard moved. For the first time in centuries, a station shifted against Drakari command. It dropped from orbit. Low, too low. Scorch Cult warbands looked up just in time to see the burning shadow descend. Engines flaring, heat shields glowing, like an angry star preparing to crush them. Then Thorn's voice echoed across every channel. "You fed on our children. You built empires on our pain. Now feed on this." The gods had detonated. There was no light, just pressure, heat, and then silence. Where New Santiago had once stood, now there was a crater 50 miles wide. Every airship nearby was reduced to charred skeletons. The scorched cult evaporated mid-chant. Flame met flame and was outmatched. In orbit, the shockwave cracked the throne shard in two. Thorn and his team had already evacuated, barely, aboard the Wraith, scarred but intact. Solon stared at the view from orbit, mouth dry. You just took out 10,000 in one move. Thorn didn't answer at first. He just looked at Earth, smoldering, still fighting, still alive. Then he said, "This was never about numbers. It's about memory." In the Drakari capital, Veljara stood before her council. "Recall every legion," she commanded. "Unleash the Black Rings. This is no longer containment." She turned her head, her voice like venom. "This is extermination." And somewhere, in the ashes of a burned field on Earth, a child found a shattered helmet, human. She picked it up, cleaned the blood off, and smiled. The sky had never looked so empty. Above Earth, the stars flickered like dying embers, choked by the smoke of ruined fleets and the orbital carcasses of once proud warships. The air crackled with tension. Gravity, time, memory, everything felt twisted, as if the universe itself was bracing for what came next. On the bridge of the Wraith, Marcus Thorne stood still, helmet off, jaw clenched. His face was older now, haunted, carved by war. His eyes no longer searched for answers, only targets. Solon stood beside him, patching into enemy comms. Lara sat hunched at the weapons station, arm bandaged, lips split, heart barely holding together. From behind, an alert chimed. Incoming fleet detected. Solon checked the readings and went pale. Confirmed. They brought everything. Thorne didn't blink. How many? She swallowed. All of them. The Black Rings, the Death Choir, the Spine Leviathans, even the Hollow Thrones. "Good," he said. Lara coughed a laugh. "Good? You finally cracked." "No," Thorne said calmly. "Now they've made their mistake." Far beyond Pluto, the Drakari Armada unfolded like a metal plague, millions strong, ships the size of cities, some stitched together from the bones of ancient beasts. At its center, surrounded by riding escorts, floated the flagship, the Immortal Pyre, and aboard it, wrapped in psychic flame and shadow silk, stood the Empress of Ruin herself, Veljara. She stared at Earth's silhouette through a command lens. Behind her, her advisors muttered, terrified. "This is madness," one rasped. "Why dedicate the entire armada to one world?" Veljara turned slowly. "I am not destroying a world," she whispered. "I am erasing a story." Down on Earth, the sky broke open. Thousands of fire lances speared through the atmosphere, not missiles, not ships, pods. Inside each, a monster, berserkers with hollow mouths, necromancers wrapped in living chains, war flesh that bled acid in dreams. The Drakari didn't come to conquer anymore. They came to punish. Across the ruins of London, fire spread faster than wind. In New Cairo, entire skyscrapers screamed as biomechs devoured them. From Beijing to Rio, it was no longer a war. It was a harvest, but not all bowed. On the steps of a broken cathedral in old Santiago, resistance fighters stood shoulder to shoulder, rifles shaking in their hands. And then they heard it, over the static, over the noise. Thorne's voice. "They brought everything. Good. Because now they have nowhere to run. This is our planet, our soil, our memory. Let the stars fall. We'll still be standing." And the humans, shackled, starving, hunted, stood taller. Thorne had one last card. It wasn't a weapon, not in the traditional sense. It was a ship, buried long ago, in Earth's mantle, beneath layers of myth and time. Project Crucible. Solon stared at the data. This was supposed to be impossible. Built by the old god before the collapse. Lara limped beside them. Why bury it? Thorne's jaw tightened. Because it was meant for the end of everything. They descended into the molten core via a drill ship older than memory, past the bones of failed empires, past the vaults of forgotten kings, and their wrapped in liquid fire, was a crucible, not a ship, a weaponized reality fold. Solon gasped. This could wipe entire star systems. No, said Thorn. It'll wipe one. As the Drakari descended, Thorn broadcast his final message, unencrypted, universal. You enslaved us. You fed on our past. You laughed as we died. But we are not history. We are the reckoning that crawled out of the fire. We are human, and this is your last sunrise. Then he gave the order. Unleash the crucible. The earth shuddered. Space buckled. A wave of silence exploded from beneath the crust. Reality turned inside out. Ships above Earth began collapsing in on themselves, devoured not by explosions but by time collapse. Entire Drakari dreadnoughts folded into points of singular black. The immortal pyre turned, fled, but it was too slow. Veljara's scream echoed across the void as her throne split in half, and she was pulled, not into death, but into oblivion. No memory, no legacy, just erasure. 1 hour later, the skies were quiet. Earth burned, but it lived. The Drakari? Gone, not just defeated, erased. Atop the ruins of the throne shard's last fragment, Thorn stood alone. Lyra was gone, killed by a blast wave while shielding a child. Solon had disappeared during the Crucible's activation. Her last smile burned into his memory. Now, he stood under gray clouds, staring at the blackened soil. Then he turned, and saw them. Not soldiers, not slaves, humans, thousands. Some limping, some crying, some holding rifles, others, babies. And when they saw him, they raised their fists. No cheers, just silence, the kind that honors the dead, and the kind that promises nothing will be forgotten. A girl, barely 10, stepped forward, held up a cracked helmet. It was his. He knelt, took it slowly, looked at her. Your name? She looked him straight in the eye. Hope. Thorn smiled for the first time in years, and put the helmet on. In the stars above, where the Drakari Empire once ruled, only one signal now echoed. This system is closed. The debt is paid. We are free.